For Blue Jays baseball on Sportsnet. Today, Alex Rodriguez and the New York Yankees take on Daniel Norris and the Toronto Blue Jays. Yankees, Blue Jays, next. Fans piling into Auto Exchange Stadium here in Dunedin, Florida. Check out the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees on another beautiful day here in Dunedin, Florida. Hi, everyone. I'm Barry Davis, and a big day for Dalton Pompey. In fact, a big weekend for him. Tomorrow, he'll play his younger brother, Tristan, as Canada junior team takes on the Toronto Blue Jays. But for today, very important that he's back in the lineup. He had quite a scare earlier this week in Port Charlotte when the Blue Jays were playing the Rays. He suffered from dehydration. He had doubled, and when he reached second base, he hunched over. He couldn't breathe at the time, and at that point, he started to get a little bit worried, as you think he would. He went back into the dugout, got some fluids back into his system. He said afterwards he's never experienced anything like that ever before in his life. The good news is he feels 100% now, and he will be back in the lineup today for the Toronto Blue Jays. Sal, for more on today's game, let's send it upstairs to Buck Martinez and Joe Siddle.
Thank you, Barry. And the Yankees are here in Dunedin today for the first of two spring training matchups. And, Joe, for the first time in 2 decades, there's no Derek Jeter. Finally, the core four is done in New York. A totally different look. But today we're going to get a look at Alex Rodriguez, who returns to the Yankees this year.
Well, the Yankees are anxious to see what Alex Rodriguez can still do. Coming back from the PED suspension, he missed all of last season. He's 39 years old with a new hip after surgery. That's a lot to expect from a guy. The Yankees still last year were able to come second place in that AL East despite all the injuries to the rotation, most notably losing CC Sabathia and Masahiro Tanaka for some time.
A lot of questions about whether or not Alex Rodriguez will be able to hold up today. We'll get a chance to see him play third base. The pitching is a big concern for this ball club, and the starting pitching especially.
Well, it is, and anytime your rotation takes a hit with those injuries like we talked about last year, they also lost time from Ivan Nova and Michael Pineda, but today it's Daniel Norris for the Blue Jays. This is a guy that rose quickly through the minors for the Blue Jays. One thing Daniel has to do now with this injury to Stroman, he just needs to be himself. He's got tremendous stuff, 4 pitches. He's got the stuff to pitch in the major leagues, but with the injury to Stroman, I think what Norris has to do is feel less stressed. There's 2 spots open now at the back end of the rotation, and he is just himself. His catcher behind the plate talked today, Russell Martin. Compete. That's the one word he used, and he's going to help guide Daniel Norris today.
It all came together for Norris a year ago. It's a spectacular day here in Dunedin, Florida. When we come back, we'll have lineups and first pitch. The weather has really turned around here in Central Florida. Welcome back to Dunedin. It's a spectacular day. 26 degrees here in Dunedin, and the sun is brightly shining. Daniel Norris will tee it up today against Joe Girardi's New York Yankees. Girardi is entering his 8th season as the Yankees skipper, former Yankee catcher. He got a few coaches on his staff that are new. Now let's take a look at the starting lineups for the Yankees. Top of the order is impressive. Jacoby Ellsbury, Brett Gardner. Blue Jays can't get those two guys out. Then Carlos Beltran, and how about the return of Alex Rodriguez? He's at third base today. Chris Young came over from the Mets a year ago. Played well for the Yankees down the stretch. You're going to see some youngsters, Jose Perilla, Eddie Rodriguez, Kyle Roller, and Cole Figueroa round out the lineup, and they are set to take their first look at Daniel Norris. And the starting pitchers are brought to you by Scott's Weed Be Gone. This spring, knock weeds out of your park with Scott's Weed Be Gone. Kills weeds, not lawns.
21-year-old left-hander is making his third start of the spring. He made his last start on Monday against the Tigers. That was in Lakeland. Went a couple of innings, gave up 4 hits, 3 earned runs, also struck out 3, and he'll be working with his catcher Russell Martin today. Norris vying for one of those last couple of spots in the Blue Jays rotation.
I like the fact that he's wearing number 32. You can relate an awful lot of great left-handers over the course of the history of baseball wearing 32, and of course top of mind, the great Sandy Koufax of the Dodgers. So we are set to begin here. Jacoby Ellsbury steps in his second year with the New York Yankees, and as I mentioned, he is a .316 career hitter against Toronto. First pitch of the game is up and in, and we are underway. Ellsbury a year ago hit .271 for New York. Grounded out 16 homers and drove in 70. There's a breaking ball in there for a strike. He had an interesting conversation with Russell Martin about what he wants from Norris today.
Russell Martin talked about compete. That's what he wants Daniel to do. He's got good stuff. He belongs in the big leagues. Russell talked about how he's got the stuff to be here, but what happens is pitchers work on their stuff in between their starts, in their bullpens. But when you get out on that mound, you've got to utilize that stuff now and come in one pitch at a time. Russell's very focused, and he's come from a winner, so that's a good guy to listen to.
Well, John Gibbons has a couple of new guys in his lineup that are all about winning, and you carry that right from spring training into the regular season. 1-2 to Ellsbury. Off-speed pitch missed upstairs. Daniel Norris really came into his own a year ago. Finished up the season 12-2 in the minor leagues. Got his first start last year at the end of the season. Made that final appearance of the season against Seattle. Pitched well. Pete Walker's impressed with not only his stuff, but his composure, the way he fits into this club.
He throws all 4 pitches. Fastball will be around 93, 94. Curveball, slider, and changeup.
Check swing. Tapper 2 hops to the third baseman. Donaldson 1 down. Well, let's take a look at the defense behind Daniel Norris here in the outfield. Kevin Pillar, Dalton Pompey, they've played a lot. They lead the team in at-bats. They're getting a great opportunity. Caleb Jindal is in right field. He's having a good spring. Donaldson, Goins, Travis, and Smoke. Keep your eye on Devin Travis and the veteran behind the plate, Russell Martin.
Travis, the 24-year-old, vying for that open competition at second base. He came over in that trade for Anthony Ghost from the Tigers. Played at AA Erie last season, product of Florida State University.
Playing in his home state here in spring training. Here's another Blue Jay killer, Brett Gardner. Gardner has hit .353 for his career at Rogers Center. His personal playground, that's for sure. There's a strike. A year ago, Brett Gardner hit .292 with 4 home runs against the Jays. Here's the 1-1 pitch. Off-speed pitch, broken bat, little tapper to Smoke. 2 quick outs on ground balls. One thing I have noticed in getting to know Daniel Norris, he's not all about making an impression with his velocity. He wants to be a pitcher.
Well, he is, and like we said, he's got all 4 pitches, and that's what Russell is still trying to learn his stuff, but also learn the young man, the personality. That goes a long ways. Russell's been doing that for years very successfully.
Here is Carlos Beltran. He is a switch hitter batting right-handed.
Beltran, a disappointing offensive season a year ago, but he was dealing with elbow chips and really cut down his ability to swing the bat freely. There's another off-speed pitch pulled foul. Beltran has 2,322 career hits. He's a .281 hitter. Started his career with the Kansas City Royals. This is his second year in New York. With the Yankees, that is. Had a good run with the Mets across town in New York. But he's healthy. He feels good. And he feels like he can contribute offensively more than he did a year ago. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Russell Martin wanted that pitch.
95-mile-per-hour fastball in the outside corner right there from Norris. Nice job receiving that ball by Russell Martin. And talk about Martin being one of the best receivers in the game, and he stuck that. Gave home plate umpire Will Little a good look.
Fouled back on the breaking ball. Will Little behind the plate today. The umpires will move around. Little is a umpire that has come up and down the last couple of years in the major leagues. Change up into dirt. Full count, 2 outs. Alex Rodriguez is on deck. Rodriguez trying to recapture the form he had prior to a series of injuries. He had hip surgery in 2013. Of course, he was suspended all of last year. That is pulled well foul. Alex Rodriguez, one of the premier players in baseball. He's the active leader in so many offensive numbers, but of course everybody knows that he's got a black cloud over him. Broken bat, dribbler to second. Travis is there. Easy inning for Daniel Norris. 3 up, 3 down on 3 ground ball outs. Russell Martin will lead things off for the Blue Jays when we come back. John Gibbons Blue Jays still trying to find their stroke as a team. They're hitting just .232 through 12 games this spring. Let's take a look at the lineup. We mentioned Russell Martin in the leadoff spot today. Then the youngster Devin Travis in the 2-hole. Josh Donaldson, Diane Viciera returns to the lineup after dealing with an infection. Justin Smoke trying to find his stroke and take the lead in that race at first base. Pompey, Gindel, Pilar, and Goins round out the lineup. They're set to take on former Blue Jay Esmil Rogers.
29-year-old right-hander is making his second start of the spring. He last started against the Pirates back on March 5th, tossed in a couple of scoreless innings, claimed off waivers from the Blue Jays last July, went 2-0 with a 4.68 ERA in 19 appearances with the Yankees.
He made a start for New York. He was the winner for the Yankees in a 10-6 win over Cleveland, his former team. Esmil started out his career with the Colorado Rockies, went to Cleveland, and Blue Jays made a trade. He spent 2 seasons with the Blue Jays. Finished up with a 5-9 record for Toronto with a 5.06 ERA. He's kind of a swingman. You can use him as a spot starter, or he can pitch long relief. Russell Martin goes after the first pitch and hammers it to left. Brett Gardner is going to play this one off the wall. Martin is headed for second, and he'll get there with a leadoff double. Russell Martin not wasting any time, jumps on the first pitch he sees.
Martin in that leadoff spot today, teeing off on the first pitch fastball right down the middle, almost inner half there from Esmil Rogers. Gets a good piece. He gets the bat head out front. You can tell he's looking fastball. First pitch right there leading off the first inning.
First extra base spring hit for Russell Martin, he's at second. Devin Travis, the second baseman. Travis is 24 years old. He was drafted in the 13th round in 2012 by the Blue Jays. Comes out of Florida State. See his numbers a year ago with the Tigers in Double-A. 298. He's an offensive second baseman. People that have seen him play in the minor leagues believe that he can be an offensive force. Trying to hit the ball on the right side, and the Blue Jay coaches are going to take note of that.
Good swing right there by Devin Travis. Leadoff double by Martin. Travis keeping the hands inside, almost letting that ball travel deep into his stance, trying to shoot it to the right side to get his runner over to third.
Devin is 6 for 23 so far this spring. That's a .261 average. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Struck out on a high fastball. One down. Take a look at the defense behind New York. Great speed in the outfield. And this is liable to be the opening day outfield for the Yankees. Gardner, Ellsbury, and Beltran from left to right. Alex Rodriguez made 27 starts at third base in 2013. Figueroa and Perella up the middle. Kyle Roller at first base, and Eddie Rodriguez, the catcher. Yankees are playing a split squad game today.
Rodriguez missed all of last season due to that PED suspension, with that hip surgery. The Yankees not sure what they're going to get out of him now at 39 years old.
Josh Donaldson in the third hole this afternoon. Breaking ball for a strike. Donaldson, like so many veterans in spring training, off to a bit of a slow start. He has hit a home run. That came against the Phillies over at Clearwater. Donaldson has been an everyday third baseman, a guy you can really count on. He goes to the post every single day, and Blue Jays are anxious to see those offensive numbers continue. And breaking ball missed down and away. It's 1-1.
Donaldson's a winner. He's just like Russell Martin. We talked about two key acquisitions here by the Blue Jays, and talking to Donaldson, he's not going to come in here and try to take over this clubhouse, even though we know what both of those two players bring. He's going to just let things evolve. He's going to be himself. And I think we're going to see very early in the season he will be one of those leaders.
Takes a while for a player with a new team to really feel like he can step up and voice his opinion. We've seen that a little bit more with Burley and Dickey. Now in their third season, all of a sudden they feel like this is their team, where they can have a little bit more of a vocal impact.
And it does take that time. Donaldson said he's not going to come in here. It's just not his personality to do that. He knows that Bautista is really the leader of this club, but I think this team is going to be relying heavily on their two new players, the catcher and third baseman.
2 balls in his strike. Russell Martin at second with a leadoff double. There's a base hit through the left side. Martin's getting the wave around third. Gardner comes up throwing. It's a good throw. One hop right to the catcher, and Martin is a dead duck. Brett Gardner has a very accurate arm. It's not what you would call an overpowering arm, but he is quick to get to the ball. Made a good release and threw a strike to the catcher.
Well, the key here with this ball being hit to the left side of the field, Martin had to freeze for a moment. You see him freezing right there, making sure that the ball gets through the left side. Third base coach Luis Rivera challenging that arm of Brett Gardner. They will continue to challenge it. That time, Brett Gardner stepped up and won the battle.
Obviously, with the no collision rule in place, Russell Martin is tagged out easily. So Donaldson has the base hit. He goes to second on the throw. Now there are 2 outs. Dayan Viciedo, powerful right-handed hitter, takes one down and away. Viciedo is a .254 career hitter. He's got 66 homers over his 5 years with the Chicago White Sox. Hit 21 homers a year ago. He is a free swinger.
Free swinger, but with a lot of raw power, and I think that's what John Gibbons really likes about Viciedo and what he may bring to this club. This is a little test here in spring training to see if this bat could be utilized. Maybe a little first base, but probably a lot of DHing as well.
Viciedo is from Cuba, his hometown, Villa Clara, Cuba. Ball misses down and in. Viciedo just turned 26 years old. He's a young man. He certainly has the power that catches your eye. He played a little bit of third base in his first season, but primarily he's an outfielder DH candidate. Rogers checks on the runner at second. Another breaking ball waved at 2-2.
Gibbons talked about that outfield mix, and then Viciedo could be used at the corners in the infield, but more than anything, it's his bat that the Blue Jays are looking at, and Gibbons certainly likes the thunder and the possibilities of him adding some thump and lengthening that lineup.
One thing the Blue Jays are a bit concerned about is they're pretty right-handed right now, the way the lineup stacks up. They have the possibility of course, Reyes is going to be in the lineup. He's a switch hitter. Pompey may be in the lineup. He, too, is a switch hitter. But no Colby Erasmus, no Adam Lynn. So you need some of the left-handers like Smoke and Barton to step up a bit. Trying to get a balanced lineup.
Tough against those tough right-handed pitchers for these right-hand hitters.
Full count, 2 outs. Rogers steps off the mound. Blue Jays have a couple of hits here in the first inning. Russell Martin with a leadoff double. Josh Donaldson with a sharp single to left field. Another off-speed pitch. Rogers, a couple of strikeouts in the first. The Blue Jays get a couple of hits, but leave a runner. A scoreless inning. Norris was perfect in his first inning.
Training on Sportsnet. Brought to you by Scott's Coated Grass Seed. This spring, build up your outfield, even if you miss a day of watering, with Scott's Coated Grass Seed.
Beautiful afternoon on the Gulf Coast of Florida. We are in Dunedin. Blue Jays and Yankees move to the second inning, and the crowd acknowledge the introduction of Alex Rodriguez with the boos. Rodriguez, of course, was suspended for PED use. Missed all of last season. The original suspension was for 211 games. It was reduced to a full season. Norris quickly ahead 0-2. Alex Rodriguez is now 39 years old. He'll turn 40 on the 27th of July. And Norris strikes him out on 3 pitches.
Good sequence right there by Russell Martin. Came back with the breaking ball 0-1. Slows that hitter's eyes down a little bit, and then he comes back with the 0-2 elevated fastball. Rodriguez cannot catch up.
Boy, a simple approach right there, and that's going to be the big question, whether or not Alex Rodriguez can catch up to that good Major League fastball. Chris Young, the DH this afternoon. Young played in 23 games with the Yankees. Those are his numbers combined between the Mets and the Yankees. He had 282 with the Yankees, had 8 doubles and 3 home runs in those 23 games. Began his career with Chicago White Sox, went to Arizona in a trade that included Javier Vasquez going from the White Sox to the Diamondbacks. Three and one. Daniel Norris, just 21 years old, and it all came together for him last year. Here he hits one between the shortstop and second baseman into center. That's the first base runner to reach for New York. Chris Young aboard with a 1-out single. Daniel Norris was a second-round pick in 2011, and he was actually the 6th player the Blue Jays picked that draft. They had 5 first-round picks in the 2011 draft. And they were fortunate that Norris was still available. Jose Perella, the second baseman, bats. Perella got into a few games last year. He went 8 for 24 in limited action with the Yankees as a breaking ball, and Norris is ahead 0-2.
That's the better breaking ball right there from Daniel Norris. We've seen some of his sliders and curveballs in this first couple of innings just kind of hanging and staying out of the zone, but then he'll snap one off really well, and that's what Russell Martin's doing. He's going to get him to continue to throw those until he gets it right.
0-2. Breaking ball bounced in the dirt. You can see Russell Martin was thinking ball in the dirt first and foremost.
It gives his pitcher a nod right there, and that's what happened to Aaron Sanchez yesterday. You hang a curveball 0-2 over the plate, it can get hammered, but Russell wants this in the dirt. Daniel buries it in the dirt. You're trying to get a swing out of that pitch. If you don't, no biggie. It's still a 1-2 count and you're ahead of the hitter.
Chris Young at first base. How important is it for a young pitcher to recognize Martin is so good at blocking those balls in the dirt?
Well, it's trust. And as a catcher, you know, Buck, is if you can gain that trust of the pitcher, I'd tell the pitchers right now, you bury it any time, I've got your back. And Russell Martin's got the reputation to go with it.
Full count. Second inning. This is the first time these two clubs will meet in spring training. They'll only have one more game, and that'll be a night game on Tuesday night over at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. Young and not running. There's an off-speed pitch. That drilled to the gap in right center. Pompey on the run, lays out and makes a heck of a catch. Dalton Pompey stayed with it. That ball looked like it was going to drop for extra bases, but he dove, extended, and stuck his glove underneath that baseball.
The flags are blowing from left to right, so this ball is going to carry off the right-handed bat. It's going to slice away from the center fielder. Pompey gets a great jump, but continues his pursuit. Nice job by the right fielder, Caleb Gindel, in behind in case that ball gets by. Yeah, Daniel Norris, nice job, Dalton. Way to pick me up right there.
Well, I tell you what, that's something that we have seen from limited play of Dalton Pompey. He can play center field. So can his competitor and teammate, Kevin Pillar. They're both very good in center. This is Eddie Rodriguez, the journeyman catcher. He is batting with 2 outs. Rodriguez is 29 years old. He played his college baseball at the University of Miami. There's another drive to center. Much easier play this time for Pompey. Daniel Norris gives up a hit, but he gets a couple of nice defensive plays from young Dalton Pompey.
Fans, be sure to check out Rogers Hometown Hockey Sunday night when the Flyers take on the Ottawa Senators. Ron McLean hosting the Sportsnet mobile studio in Regina. That's tomorrow, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific on City.
We move to the bottom of the second inning in this scoreless ball game. Justin Smoak will start things off for the Jays. Dalton Pompey and Caleb Gindel. Smoak has over 4 years of big league service, that all coming with the Seattle Mariners. He's a switch hitter, batting left-handed against Rogers, and takes the first pitch in there for a strike. Smoak off to a slow start, just 1 for 18 so far. This is his 8th game of the spring. Like a changeup in there at the bottom of the zone.
Esmil Rogers will throw all of them. Fastball average over 93 miles per hour. Curveball, slider, cutter, and changeup. There's the changeup right there.
A looper into right. The second baseman goes out. Varela was deep into right field and makes an easy play of it. 1 down. We mentioned Rogers is a swing man. He's a guy that can give you a spot start, as he did with the Blue Jays in his time in Toronto. We mentioned the Yankees are playing a split squad game. The starter in the game in Tampa is Michael Pineda, who has gone 2 innings already this afternoon and struck out 4. Of course, he's a very important part of their rotation. Dalton Pompey bunts it up to third baseline. Rogers is a very good fielder and makes a bang-bang play. Esmil Rogers was an infielder early in his career, and you could see his background served him well right there.
And you could see that background, all right, the athleticism from Rogers getting off the mound very quickly. He beats Alex Rodriguez to it, but what he does is he plants his feet, picks up the baseball bare hand, and makes a good, accurate throw to first base. And showing his athleticism, it certainly helps to have been an infielder in the past.
2 outs now for Caleb Gindel. Gindel is 26 years old. He was a Milwaukee Brewer 5th-round draft pick in 2007. He's had a couple of different stints with the Brewers in 2013 and 14. He's had a total of just 151 major league at-bats. But he's having a good spring. He's hit 5 doubles already this spring for the Blue Jays. Rogers looks like he's trying to work on his off-speed stuff here today. This is his 2nd start of the spring. Made a good pitch with that fastball and tied up Gindel. Rogers made 1 previous start early in the spring. This is just his 5th inning of work. You got to think that Gindel, he understands the numbers are stacked against him. He's a non-roster invitee, so he really is taking the opportunity of every at-bat. Drives this one. This is going to be another extra base hit for Gindel. He's around first, headed for second. Beltran digs it out. Gindo's being waved to third. Here's the relay throw, and it's offline and late. Another extra base hit for the Blue Jays outfielder Caleb Gindel.
Caleb Gindel continuing to open eyes here for the Blue Jays. This ball down and in that lefty rake zone, and he tees off on that pitch. See a little bit of misalignment right there by the Yankees defense. The middle infielders were setting up for a definite double, possible triple. Third baseman Alex Rodriguez, he vacated his position. He was thinking going to line up for second base, have a shot, but they crossed their wires right there.
Ball kind of got stuck, and what they did was they sent Gindel back to second base, ruled a ground rule double. It got stuck in the fence down in the right field corner. So it will not be a triple. It'll be the 6th double for Gindel, and he leads Major League Baseball in that department.
Well, it's going to be tough for John Gibbons not to take notice here. He is certainly making an impression with his bat. If Michael Saunders does indeed start the season on the disabled list, he is a left-handed bat. We just talked about the Blue Jays being a little right-handed heavy.
Kevin Pillar, they mentioned he and Dalton Pompey, they lead the team in at-bats. They each have 24 at-bats coming into this game, so neither one of them can complain about not getting enough opportunities. Pompey coming into this game 8 for 24, 333 average. This is popped up, and that's going to reach the seats out of play.
You almost sense a healthy competition going on here between Kevin Pillar and Dalton Pompey. Both quietly going about their business, not getting caught up in the competition that's going on, but conceivably both of them could be the center fielder and left fielder opening day if the injury to Saunders keeps him out.
That's a distinct possibility for sure. Pillar battling with 2 strikes. He had a 2-strike base hit in yesterday's game. 0-2. Up and in, trying to elevate that fastball. Pillar takes a lot of pride in his ability to recognize the strike zone.
Rogers coming in with the fastball there. That's one thing Esmill's already done. He's shown the off speed, but he's not afraid to try to come inside too. That's a good pitch. Look for possibly an off speed pitch down the way now.
Came back with a fastball and he tied up Pillar. I think you're right. I think Pillar was thinking away. Got just enough of it to stay alive.
See, catcher Eddie Rodriguez looked like he was actually set up away. I think Rogers missed his spot right there. He's having a little chat right now, wondering where you want to go now. 1 and 2. We've come in twice. Probably not going to go in a third time. But he is totally set up for that off-speed pitch away. But Kevin Pillar, we've said, he's really shown adjustments this spring as a 2-strike hitter.
Caleb Gendel at second. It's a scoreless game. We're in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Had a good hack at that high fastball. Pillar is one of those guys that's always had to beat the odds. He was a 32nd round pick coming out of college. Really never got noticed throughout the minors, and all of a sudden you look at his minor league career and he's a career .321 hitter. You have to give him an extra look now. This is popped up down the left side. Under is over. He's got room and gets there and makes the catch. The inning is over. Caleb Gendel gets another double. Esmill Rogers leaves him at second. We move to the 3rd. No score.
Fans, the Blue Jays begin the season in New York against these same Yankees and then return to Rogers Center for Honda opening week, April 13th to 16th. Honda home opener is sold out, but if you're looking for tickets for the remainder of the series, you can do so at 416-341-1234 or at bluejays.com. Buck?
Barry, that's a big week, of course. The Blue Jays are home to start their schedule. They'll play Tampa Bay for a 4-game series. Then the Atlanta Braves are in for the weekend series. It all starts on the 17th of April. That's a Friday night. That's when the Braves are in town. Kyle Roller, the first baseman. 1 ball and 1 strike. Daniel Norris getting the start. This was scheduled to be Marcus Stroman's start. Of course, Stroman had that knee injury and he is lost for the season. So Stroman was put in. Blue Jays are going to juggle their rotation and really set it up to get ready for the regular season next week. Well, that's a good pitch. Russell Martin has asked for a couple of those borderline pitches and hasn't gotten a call from Will Little, the home plate umpire. 2-2 pitch. Breaking ball. That'll be a strike. 1 down. Let's check in with Barry Davis.
Thanks a lot, Buck. And it's been well documented that during the offseason, Daniel Norris lives in his old Winnebago van. Well, just to show just how much fun this team is having this year, while the Blue Jays were playing in Port Charlotte, many of the players stayed back, including Norris and R.A. Dickey. After the workout was done, Dickey found Norris's keys to the van, took it from the parking lot to a backfield, left it there, took some pictures of himself driving the van around. And I tell you something, R.A. Dickey, now in his 3rd year with the Blue Jays, is really starting to show a comfort level, especially with some of the young pitchers like Daniel Norris.
Well, that's really important, and we mentioned with Dickey, probably a little bit more comfortable. And everybody has been talking about the van, and that is the van right there, and Daniel Norris calls it Shaggy. No, Volkswagen bus. There's a liner down the left side by Cole Figueroa. Pilar throws it in, but not in time as Figueroa gets the 1-out double out of the number 9 pole.
Norris left this pitch up and out over the plate a little bit. Figueroa does a nice job letting that ball travel, get deep in his stance. Kevin Pillar did what he could to cut that ball off, trying to hold Figueroa to a single, but just too deep in that left field corner.
Back to the top of the order, Jacoby Ellsbury grounded out to third base, his first time up. One out, Figueroa at second base. Breaking ball, fouled out of play. To go back to the Dickey prank on the young pitcher, Joe, I think that's a real important point because last week everybody was down in the dumps about Stroman. Now the question is who's going to fill in? And by Dickey acknowledging Norris, I think it really makes him feel like he's a big part of the team now.
And it's very important to see that from a veteran like R.A. You know, R.A. Dickey and Burley lead this rotation. And to be able to turn to the young kids like that, really welcome him in. And we know we're going to see Daniel Norris this year in Toronto. Not sure if it's going to be opening day or not. But very good to have those veterans leading the way.
Ball on the strike to Ellsbury. Late on that pitch, down and away. It's 1-2. Daniel Norris, you can see the stains on the back of his hands. It looks like blood, and you can see there's a swipe mark from that. Appears to me that he might have a blister working, and that's certainly something the Blue Jays are going to be a little concerned about. Norris last year when he joined the Blue Jays pitched with elbow chips, and when he made his final start against the Mariners, he could barely straighten out his elbow, but he said he didn't want to let anybody know, and he eventually had those chips removed on October 8th. It'd be interesting to see just how far he goes today. He's scheduled to go 3 innings, but if he's dealing with a blister, and obviously I'm sure he has brought it to the attention of the training staff. They don't want to push anything like that too far.
I see that on his pants, but I have not seen Daniel look at his hand yet or look at his fingers. Normally a pitcher would be looking in between pitches, and that's what I have not seen yet.
The high pop. This is over toward the seats down the right side. Yeah, you're right. anytime you see a pitcher and you look at a hot spot on his finger, and most often it's that middle finger that gets all of the friction from the baseball, man, it doesn't appear to be favoring it. You would hope that Daniel is wise enough not to be pushing anything, if it is a blister or anything like that, that might set him back at all. I think everybody associated with the Blue Jays feels that Daniel Norris is going to pitch in the big leagues. He already has, just a matter of when. Pete Walker has communication with the bullpen here, and in a situation like this, they might get a pitcher ready, see if they need him to come in to close out this inning. Full count, 1 out. Ellsbury taps the curveball to second, bobbled by Devin Travis, but he recovers in time. 2 down. Cole Figueroa goes to third on the ground out.
One thing Daniel has to do as a young pitcher coming up, for him to be successful in the big leagues, you need to throw all of your pitches and be able to throw them for strikes. And that's one thing Martin talked about today, is being consistent. That time he threw a 3-2 off-speed pitch to Ellsbury. His first at-bat back in the first inning, you saw Ellsbury get a 1-0 slider. He's going to need to be able to do those things, but it's that consistency that Norris is going to have to continue to work on.
Brett Gardner grounded out to the first baseman his first time up. They mentioned Gardner, what a tough opponent he is for the Blue Jays, and with Gardner and Ellsbury top of the order, it really gives them a lot of speed. Gardner had 21 steals a year ago. Ellsbury had 39. Gardner really stepped it up in the power department. He had 17 home runs for New York. Here he gets tied up.
And the Yankees needed that speed. They just did not swing the bats like the old Bronx Bombers we once knew. They're just not that way anymore. And we talked about the injuries to Teixeira and Beltran and lack of production. Derek Jeter was in his final season, not the same Jeter of old. So they had to try to create runs, but this offense really struggled last season.
Teixeira is healthy and back at first base. He is playing in the other split squad game. There's a slow breaking ball. Gardner strikes out. Foul tip hung on to by Russell Martin. Good outing for Daniel Norris if it comes to an end. He pitched 3 strong innings and shown the Yankees a wide assortment of pitches.
Fans, a huge win for the Raptors last night against the Heat, and tomorrow they are back on Sportsnet hosting the Portland Trail Blazers. That all gets underway at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, and the playoffs are right around the corner. Buck?
Well, the Raptors have really had a couple of good seasons the last 2 years and captured the imagination of the hoop fans in Canada. Hope they continue that great run. Ryan Goins, a number 9 hitter, takes the first pitch strike. Goins continues to show his great defensive skills. He made a terrific play at second base in yesterday's game. He's had a pretty good start to his spring training. He's 5 for 16, and he puts one through the left side for his 6th hit of the spring. That's all Goins has to do. Get on base, have good at bats, and put the ball in play. Give himself a chance at the plate. He is head and shoulders above anybody else in camp defensively.
If Ryan Goins can just hit a little bit, he would be so valuable. He came into the ball game yesterday, made an outstanding play as a defensive substitution, but he's taking a new approach this spring. He's taking his career upon himself, and he's doing some things hitting wise that he feels that he hit in the past. There's no reason. He believes that he has the confidence that he can hit.
Russell Martin jumped on the first pitch he saw this afternoon and had a double off the wall in left center. He shows bunt, takes a strike. You like Martin hitting in the 2 spot? Overall, today he's hitting leadoff, but he seems to be pretty confident wherever he bats in the lineup.
He sure does. We saw him leading off today, teeing off on that first pitch fastball. We saw the tremendous on-base percentage last year with the Pirates. Not bad for the 2-hole either. It looks like he can manipulate the bat a little bit, so it's not a bad spot in that 2-hole.
Reyes, of course, will be the leadoff hitter. Martin just in that leadoff spot today, possibly just to get an extra at bat or two. Breaking ball for a strike. Russell played 2 years with the Yankees. Said he picked up an awful lot from Derek Jeter, watching him prepare on a daily basis. Jeter gave him the advice, don't ever think that a pitcher is any better than you are in a particular at bat. There goes Goins up and in with the fastball. He threw at second. Looked like it was late. Goins is called out at second base. Tag was up the line. Strong throw by Rodriguez from behind the plate. Goins is caught stealing.
Goins got a tremendous jump on Esmail Rogers. I didn't think Eddie Rodriguez would have a shot, but Rodriguez got a very good pitch to handle as a catcher. That elevated fastball is almost like a pitch out, and very close. Just got that tag on his behind.
Might have to go to the replay during the regular season on that one. 1 out now. Russell Martin with a 2-2 count. Martin called out on a breaking ball. You can see his reaction. He thought it was off the plate outside. That's the 3rd strikeout for Esmail Rogers.
And the reason Russell's reacting that way is because when he's behind the dish, he's had a couple questionable calls that he's not getting that call just off the outside corner. This time home plate umpire Will Little rings him up, and that's exactly what Russell's thinking.
Devin Travis takes one downstairs.
Good bet you won't see Will Little and Russell Martin out to dinner tonight together.
Let's talk over your strike zone. High fly ball down the right side. Beltran over into foul ground. He's going to run out of room. Devin Travis, he was acquired in a trade that sent Anthony Gose to Detroit. And for all those folks that are watching the stat sheets around the Grapefruit League, you probably noticed that Anthony Gose is having a heck of a spring.
Off to a great start with the Tigers.
Gose is hitting .545 for Detroit. Slow breaking ball catches the inside corner. You look at the stat sheet, Gose has 4 stolen bases. He's slugging .955. Got a .600 on base percentage. But you know what, Joe?
It's spring training.
It's early. Travis hits a soft liner to second. The inning is over. Leadoff single. Goins caught stealing. We've played 3 here in Dunedin. It's a scoreless game.
on Sportsnet. Brought to you by Scott's Coated Grass Seed. This spring, build up your outfield, even if you miss a day of watering, with Scott's Coated Grass Seed.
Scoreless as we head to the top of the fourth inning. Daniel Norris out for another inning. We have mentioned that there appears to be blood on the back of the pants of Daniel Norris, but I think we've found the root of that problem. Appears as though he may have nicked his thumb on top of his thumb, so that's not a concern as far as pitching. He might have just caught a fingernail as he was snapping off one of those breaking balls.
And as long as it's not on your fingertip where you're really digging into the baseball, sometimes you're grabbing that seam, though, and that's what will cause the blister.
Carlos Beltran, the right fielder, with a 1-ball, 2-strike count. Beltran grounded out to second in his first at bat. High fastball, another strikeout for Daniel Norris. That's 4 so far this afternoon.
Just another good sequence of pitches right here. Good calling by Russell Martin, but more importantly, the youngster Norris executing the pitches. Comes with a breaking ball in the dirt, comes back with the elevated fastball. Same way he got Alex Rodriguez earlier back in the second inning.
1 out. There's a ball driven to right field. Gendo back is off the wall. Gendo plays it perfectly on the 1 hop, gets it back to the infield. Rodriguez has a long single to right. Alex Rodriguez has always had power to the opposite field, and that's when he is at his best.
He really lets the ball travel deep in his stance. He's always hit that way. Tremendous power that he generates, but that's why he goes the other way so well. Reminds me a lot of Miguel Cabrera, power they generate to the opposite field.
Rodriguez has played 19 seasons in the major leagues, and he has hit more home runs against the Blue Jays than any player. And he has 56 career home runs against the Jays.
Good hitters like that let the ball travel. They don't jump out of the baseball because they trust their hands and their abilities to stay inside the ball.
This is Chris Young, who is the DH this afternoon. Young got the first base hit against Norris this afternoon. Ball in the dirt. Another good job by Russell Martin. And we talked about Martin's value behind the plate. And you can talk about handling pitches and setting up a game plan and calling pitches, but this is another aspect that's really valuable.
And again, Daniel Norris not afraid to bounce the breaking ball in the dirt right here, trying to get the swings, but he knows Russell Martin has gained his trust. He knows he can bounce it and he'll be blocking it.
Joe, you and I have been around the game for a while, and oftentimes you'll see a veteran catcher like Martin kind of wave at those balls in the dirt, especially in spring training.
Exactly. You can get very lazy back there, and Russell is not that type of catcher.
Inside, that's ball 4. That's the first walk issued by Daniel Norris this afternoon. So there's 2 aboard here with 1 out, and Pete Walker has made his way out of the dugout. And that's probably going to be it for Daniel Norris. This time of the spring, you don't really concern yourself with a particular number of innings. You just have a pitch count in mind, and Norris evidently hit that number. Overall, a very good outing for Daniel Norris once again. He finishes up with 4 strikeouts. He walks 1 batter and allows 3 hits. Good job for Daniel Norris, and hopefully we'll hear from him when we come back. Gregory Infante is into the ball game. Those are his numbers from a year ago. He split time between New Hampshire and Buffalo with the Blue Jays. That was his first season in the organization.
Infante got some time up with the White Sox. Has pitched in 5 games back in 2010. It's a big arm. Another one of those arms down there fighting for a spot. He'll be around 96 miles per hour with the fastball, curveball, cutter, changeup.
Infante is from Venezuela. He is 27 years old. Blue Jays signed him after the Dodgers let him go, and he spent his first season between AA and AAA last summer. So there are 2 aboard. Rodriguez with the long single to right. Chris Young walked, and now Jose Pirela, the second baseman. He was robbed of an extra base hit his last time up in the second. Dalton Pompey laid out and took extra bases away from Pirela in right center. Infante is set. That ball is popped in the air down the right side. That slices out of play. We have seen this all spring long, Joe. When the Blue Jays have a starter, they generally take him out middle of the inning and have a reliever come in to try to close it out.
And taking a look at Greg Infante right here, the righty facing the righty. This is the type of role during the season he'd be coming in to try to get out of a jam.
Fastball misses inside. That was 95 miles an hour, and that's what they like about Infante. He's got a good live fastball. Breaking ball, got underneath it, and it was off the plate inside.
That's what happens when a pitcher gets underneath the baseball. You want to get on top of that ball, get the fingers on top of that curveball, and impart that downward spin. Infante didn't quite get out front that time. Ball just in behind. It stays on the arm side, inside to the right-handed hitter.
Another pop out of play. Infante was a starter early in his career. He was with the White Sox, as we mentioned, in the minor leagues. Then he moved to the bullpen in 2010. He's pitched there exclusively ever since.
And that probably explains why he throws all the pitches. He's got the curveball, cutter, and changeup to go with that 95 to 97.
Now went all the way back to the screen. Martin loses his footing and no chance for a throw. He was thinking about making the play to third. That ball bounced right back to him, but his foot slipped as he was getting set to make a throw.
Very difficult for a catcher to do much with a fastball, especially when it's in the mid-90s. You're not expecting a fastball to be in the dirt, and it's very difficult for Russell to get in a blocking position. You just try to grab that thing and just scoot it underneath the leather.
So it'll be a wild pitch. Now there are 2 runners in scoring position. It's a full count to the batter, Jose Pirela. There's a liner to right. Guindo catches it. Rodriguez can't advance as he broke on contact. Thought it was going to get down, and A-Rod's reaction, you can see there's a bit of rust on Alex Rodriguez.
That's exactly right. Rodriguez's first move is to break on that ball. That line drive to the outfield, your first move is a base run. You want to get back to that bag. If it drops, you're probably going to score anyway, and that's exactly it. We talked about in the open. Buck is not playing a lot of baseball for an awful long time. It's that baseball intelligence, baseball IQ, too, that's going to have to get caught up.
Martin and Infante have a little discussion. They had a ball get away, and maybe they had some communications problems, and now they are working with 2 outs. Eddie Rodriguez is the catcher. He flied out to center in his first. 2 outs. The scoreless game. We're in the 4th. Infante gets ahead with a good fastball. Daniel Norris started. He goes 3 1/3. He had 4 strikeouts. Walked 1 batter, the last batter he faced here this afternoon. Infante retires the first man, now trying to close out the inning here. Good job by Martin that time. He took the short hop on the fastball.
That's exactly what he tried to do on the wild pitch. Didn't come up with it. Again, it's a fastball from Infante. You just don't have time to get down on your knees and block a fastball in the dirt, so you try to pick it out of the dirt. That time Russell was able to come up with it.
Breaking ball might have backed up a little bit, but he got the inside corner.
He did indeed. That's not the good breaking ball from Infante, but he got away with it. When you throw 95, 97 and the hitter's sitting on that, you're fooled as a hitter by the off speed. Didn't have to be a quality pitch, but he's got to get that pitch down and away.
Going down and away here. Ooh, another nice play by Russell Martin. That ball hit out in front of home plate by about 3 feet.
These are not the guys that are a whole lot of fun to catch, and I'm sure Russell Martin's starting to shake his head a little bit right now. He looks more like a goalie right now than he does a catcher.
Right there, he's thinking, just keep it off my body. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Now it's a full count. Kyle Roller is on deck, the big first baseman. There's no score in the game. Gregory Infante trying to strand a pair. This is really a challenge for Russell Martin, catching a guy he's not that familiar with, who throws hard and has bounced a couple already here. The ball scoots away, but not far enough for Rodriguez to take a chance to come home. So it's a walk on a 3-2 breaking ball. That'll load the bases. Infante was the closer in Double-A last year, pitching at New Hampshire. He had 22 saves, so he's been in tough situations before. It's really the first time he had an extended opportunity to pitch as a closer in his career. Bouncing ball. This should get him out of it. Travis to Goins to end the inning. The Yankees load the bases, but Infante pitches out of the jam. Welcome back to Dunedin. We're pleased to be joined now by the starting pitcher for the Blue Jays this afternoon, Daniel Norris. And Daniel, first and foremost, what is the reason to have that blood on the back of your uniform? We got concerned you might have a blister.
Yeah, I got a blister, but it's not in a bad spot. It's just on top of my thumb.
Oh, that's great. Good to hear that. Boy, how did you feel today? You really look sharp.
kind of felt the opposite, actually. I don't know, I didn't feel too sharp, but it was just a matter of going out there and competing. It's fun having a guy like Russell Martin behind the plate. He's out there competing with me, and you know, sometimes you go out there and don't have your best stuff, and that's what kind of makes the game fun.
Daniel, you just used the word compete a couple of times. Does that have anything to do with the guy behind the plate? I talked to him this morning, and he said, you have great stuff, but what's important to him is when you get out on that mound, it's time to compete one pitch at a time.
Well, 100%. I mean, that's the way I've always pitched, but having a guy like that is, if you ever lose focus, he's so much in the game that he's right there ready to, walk you back in, and that was, I just had a blast with him. So.
Daniel, you were drafted in 2011. You didn't go out and play that summer. You went to instructional league. And walk us through that process, because you made some great comments about turning yourself over to the coaching staff and allowing them to help refine your mechanics.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a lot of times it's easy to come in to an organization and want to show your stuff and prove yourself. And I'm not a prideful person, so I said, hey, I know I got a lot of flaws, just make me good, and I just acted like a sponge and soaked up all the knowledge I could with so many of the guys that we have in this organization, like Dane and Pete Walker and Rick Langford and all the pitching coaches, Vince Worstman. I mean, it's just, with all that knowledge, it's hard not to get better. And, I definitely listened and tried to put that in my work every day.
Daniel, what were some of the changes that you made? Because you told me in high school you could just overpower hitters and strike out 16 or 17, but that you were walking 7 and 8 and 9. What are the changes that they made to your delivery?
Well, I mean, it's just attacking guys. It's a matter of going out there and having a repeatable delivery and not worrying about it, just throwing as hard as you can, going out there and throwing strikes and getting ahead of guys. But able to do that, you have to have a repeatable delivery, and that was my biggest flaw. I was just going out there and I never knew where I was going to land. And we worked on my landing spot and rhythm and everything. And, it's obviously still a work in progress, but it's a lot better than it used to be.
Daniel, this is a results-oriented sport, and how difficult was it to fight the urge of saying, hey, I'm not having any fun here, I'm getting beat up pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, I always had fun, believe it or not, just going out there and playing catch. I learned to love the small things of the game, just feeling the ball hit the mitt and stuff, just because every time I went out there it seemed like I was giving up 5 runs. But, nowadays it's a little bit more fun because you're getting people out, but yeah.
Daniel, did you feel a little inconsistent today? You don't sound overly happy with your performance. Is it the inconsistency? Because you threw some very good off-speed pitches as well, but a few of them looked like they stayed up and away in the zone.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. I'm a little hard on myself. Pete came in the second inning. He was like, hey, trying to be a perfectionist out there, you're not going to be perfect. And I understand that, but it's hard not to want to go out there and hit on every pitch and everything. But, there was a little inconsistency there today, but, I'm going to go in and take the positives from it, and the negatives I'll try and, improve upon.
How did it feel when Dickey took your van and kind of said, okay, yeah, you're one of us now? I mean, that had to make you pretty good, feel pretty good, thinking that, okay, they think enough of me to play a prank on me.
Yeah, no, that was pretty funny. I'm impressed that he got it out of I'm impressed that he got it into reverse. That's it's kind of you got to mess around with the clutch and everything. So luckily my transmission's not blown, but yeah, it was funny.
Let's take a look at this last base hit. Viciato hits one off the end of the bat and drops it in front of the right fielder for a base hit. So now, obviously, everybody knows about the loss of Marcus Stroman, and nobody wants to see anybody go down, but you were in the mix no matter what happened. Do you feel like you have a legitimate opportunity here and you're just going to go out and try to do your thing and not worry about the numbers game?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even before Marcus went down, I felt that I had a legitimate opportunity, so not much is going to change for me. It's obviously extremely unfortunate about Marcus, but it's one of those things where, we have to take it and move on. This team has to be strong, and no matter what comes our way, you got to stay strong and go out there. At the end of the day, if you're winning ball games, it doesn't matter who you got on the field.
Daniel, it's got to be exciting for the future of this organization when you think of yourself, Aaron Sanchez, Marcus Stroman when he does come back, Drew Hutchison. We've seen a couple of high-powered arms out of the bullpen, Osuna and Castro this spring. Looking into the future, is it fun to be part of that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's so much talent here, and a lot of it, it's all homegrown, so it's pretty cool. And I know it's cool for Dane and guys like that helped kind of raise us and through his organization. It's cool to, feel all of us get close and closer and, get up there to the big leagues and help, win a championship ultimately.
Dane Johnson will be in the bullpen for the first time with the Blue Jays this upcoming season. And Daniel, is there someone in baseball that you kind of look to and see if you can't get something out of their pitching style?
Yeah, I mean, Clayton Kershaw, why not? That's a guy I've liked for a number of years now, not only on the field but off the field. But on the field, it's just incredible to watch that guy pitch. And he's the word compete earlier. I mean, that's a guy that competes. He's obviously got tremendous stuff, but I've seen him pitch before, and he goes out there, and I'm like, oh, he's not sharp today. He's not sharp today. Sure enough, he goes 7 innings, punches out 9, give up 2 hits, no runs, maybe. And it's just like, man, that's incredible. Going out there with not his best stuff and just giving his team a chance to win. And that's the name of the game as a starting pitcher.
Daniel, we want to thank you so much for your time, and even though you weren't sharp today, you did pretty good.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right, good to have you. That's Daniel Norris, the starting pitcher today, and a very interesting young man, and obviously very talented.
Well, he is, and I saw the same thing actually that Daniel's talking about today. When you're sharp with all your 4 pitches, you're throwing them when you want and where you want. You're locating the baseball. He wasn't quite that good today, but he got good results. When you got that fastball 92, 93, you don't have to be overly sharp with the other pitches to be effective.
Chris Martin is the new pitcher. He misses with that breaking ball. 2 outs. He struck out Josh Donaldson to start the inning. Got Justin Smoke on a cold 3rd strike. Martin is a big right-hander, and I mean big. He's 6'7", and the Yankees are pretty well set if they have a postseason basketball team. Dalton Pompey takes a pitch on the outside corner. It's 2-1. In talking about young pitchers like Daniel Norris and Aaron Sanchez, Jim Leyland, the great manager for so many years, he's headed to the Hall of Fame in my estimation. He always said, give me stuff. I don't care about experience. You give me a pitcher with stuff and I'll take my chances. We have seen that with both Sanchez and Norris. And of course, another great stuff guy is Marcus Stroman. We're going to have to wait another year to see Stroman continue his young career. But I'll take stuff over experience any day of the week. 2-1, 2 outs. Hard ground ball right at the second baseman. The inning is over. Chris Martin gives up a double. Blue Jays leave a runner. 4 scoreless here in Dunedin. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. Another great day down in Florida as Blue Jays spring training schedule continues. Steve Delabar into the ball game.
Delabar's worked in 3 games this spring. He's thrown a few innings, but 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Those are the numbers you want to see from Steve, trying to make a comeback. A little bit of a miserable season for him last year, trying to get back to that 2013 All-Star form. It appears as though the velocity's back for Delabar this spring. He's been up around 93 miles per hour with the slider, and of course that devastating split finger fastball.
I have made a few adjustments in his delivery. What they're trying to do is get his landing foot a little more in line with home plate, so he's driving straight toward home plate. In the past, he was a little bit offline on the third base side of home. Josh Tolley has come into the game, taking over for Russell Martins. Delabar pitching out of the stretch. Pulled that fastball off the plate inside.
And it's so important, that landing spot, Buck, because that's what keeps you in line with your target. And if that landing foot is inconsistent, if you throw across your body once in a while or you open up a little bit, very difficult to find that same release point.
It's a high drive to center field. Pompey on the run. He's got plenty of room. Gets there and makes the catch. Cole Figueroa is retired, one down. Delabar in 2013 was outstanding. He had a terrific first half of the season and landed him on his first All-Star team. He struck out the only batter he faced at the All-Star game. He struck out Buster Posey, the Giants catcher. It was an especial thrill for Delabar. Not only was it his first All-Star team, but he got to share the bullpen with Mariano Rivera in his final season.
How's that for a memorable moment?
Going to give him a great opportunity to sit down and listen to Rivera talk about pitching as a closer.
Sure, he picked his brain.
Jacoby Ellsbury's grounded out twice. Bouncing ball up the middle. He'll sneak one through for a base hit. Another ground ball, but this one's a base hit for Ellsbury. Ellsbury in his second season with the Yankees put up big numbers last year. 16 homers and 70 RBIs. Here he has his first base hit. Now you got to keep your eye on him. Delabar with the Blue Jays over his 2 seasons. His first 65 games. Remember, he came to the Blue Jays mid-season in 2012. He was outstanding. In his last 47, he was pitching at less than 100%, and the numbers reflect that.
It's very difficult to play this game with any type of injury. Steve Delabar doesn't talk about it a whole lot, but we know that he had a bit of an ailing left knee last year. That's your landing foot. That's your landing leg where you're supporting. And when that's weak, you start compensating in other places in your delivery, and that's, again, where it's very difficult to get that proper release point on a consistent basis.
Missed upstairs. It's 2-0 to Brett Gardner.
When you're trying to be soft with that landing front leg, you compensate, but that arm does not come through. You tend to leave the ball up in the zone, and we saw that from Delabar last year. Very inconsistent, up, and a lot of balls.
Foul back. If there's anybody that can deal with adversity, it's Steve Delabar. Delabar was out of professional baseball with a broken elbow, and here's that delivery we're talking about.
It's about coming set. And he's a big man, so that stride is very long, but you have to get out over that front leg. And if that front leg is weak, you're going to be a little bit timid, and you're not going to be able to compensate enough with that front side.
Got that pitch in a good spot and tied up Gardner, 94 miles an hour with the fastball.
And the velocity tells everything. When Delabar's normally 93 to 95, and we saw that at times early in the season last season, but then all of a sudden you see a guy dropping it to about 91. There's one of two things wrong. Number one, he's just got some dead arm that he needs some rest. Or number two, there's something else wrong causing that. In this case, I think it was the left knee of Delabar's.
Strike three, looked like a splitter that catches the outside corner. Big strikeout for Delabar, his first of the afternoon.
And that's not the good splitter from Steve, but he'll take the caught looking from Gardner. He wants that ball down in the dirt. Josh Tolley would have been able to block it. This ball should be bouncing almost on home plate. Ball's actually up in the zone so high, Gardner gave up on it, and he got away with that pitch, but that's not where you want to throw that pitch.
Carlos Beltran switch hitting, batting left-handed for the first time. He went 0 for 2 against Daniel Norris. He struck out in the 4th inning. Delabar pitched in the Independent League, and that's where he suffered a broken right elbow, an unusual injury, and because of that fracture, he had a plate and 9 screws placed in his elbow. It's a miracle he's pitched at all. But then to have pitched well enough to make an all-star team is a remarkable accomplishment.
It's a tremendous story, and I know Steve would like to get that back. It was a frustrating season for him last year. When you're an all-star, you think you've kind of found it and really overcome some obstacles, but last year was a bit of a misery that he'd like to put behind him.
Colby Ellsbury at first. He had a ground ball single, and now they've got him picked off. Smoke holds the ball and goes a 1-throw tag out as Ellsbury, a little anxious at first. Delabar, a good inning of work.
Hello?
Is this really dealer invoice pricing?
Yeah. Oh, no. Sorry, I'll be back in a minute.
Out MLB.TV Premium. It is the #1 live streaming sports service. Watch over 250 spring training games and every regular season game live or on demand in true HD. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit BlueJays.com for more details. And I know, Buck, every afternoon on those night games, you're sitting watching every game that you can.
You bet, Barry. I see 6 or 7 games a night. You know that. Danny Barawa is a pitcher into the ball game. Those are his combined numbers in AA and AAA a year ago.
Split time between the two levels last year with the Yankees in AA and AAA. Barawa was a 12th round pick of the Yankees back in 2010 out of St. John's University.
He's 26 years old. He missed the entire 2012 season. Had a torn oblique muscle. An unusual injury for a pitcher. Caleb Guindle doubled with 2 outs back in the second. That's his 6th double of the spring. He's had quite a spring here. His first with the Blue Jays. Well, they don't know an awful lot about him, but they know enough to play him to pull. He pulled that double down into the right field corner his first time up.
Interesting that they'll play him to pull but still pitch him away, and the reason teams do that is because they feel hitters, if they're going to hit the ball on the ground, they're still more inclined to pull that ball to the pull side on the ground.
Good fastball at 96, but off the plate inside. It's 2-2. Good cut by Guindle. Here's a guy that's trying to hook on with a major league team. We mentioned he had a couple of cups of coffee with the Brewers the last 2 seasons, but coming into an organization, he cherishes every at-bat he gets, even in spring training.
And he's getting a good opportunity, but he knows he has to. Every at-bat can open some eyes, and he's certainly done that.
Fouls this one out of play. Not only are you playing for the Blue Jays, you're playing for every other major league team. There are scouts at every game throughout spring training, and they'll be assigned to an organization. They'll come and look at all the players in spring training. Another good pitch inside is spoiled by Ginn. And a host of scouts that just show up every day in spring training. They'll watch batting practice. They'll take note of different guys, and especially guys they've not seen before. Good pitch down and away, and Barroa strikes out Gindel to start the bottom of the 5th.
Good pitch, Barawa up around 95, 96 miles per hour. Very good location, good movement. It's a little reminder of almost looks like Aaron Sanchez's fastball with that good sink down and away from the left-handed hitter.
That's 6 strikeouts now for the Yankee pitchers so far today. Kevin Pillar flying out in foul ground down the left field line his first time up. Popped up out of play, straight back over our heads. Blue Jays just haven't gotten it going with the bats. They have 5 hits this afternoon. They came into this ball game as a team, batting just .232. There's a base hit. Pillar takes it the other way on that pitch up and away.
There's that 2-strike approach. We talked about it earlier. This is one area of Kevin Pillar's game that I see has drastically improved. We saw him chase a lot of pitches out of the zone last season in Toronto. 2 strikes here. He's not trying to be too fine. Short to the baseball. Don't try to do too much with 2 strikes. The hands stay inside the baseball. It makes it a shorter path to the ball. He lines that ball right into right field for a base hit.
Pillar is 1 for 2. Ryan Goins, the number 9 hitter, playing shortstop this afternoon. Singled through the left side his first time up. Yankees think they might play hit and run here. Pillar's not a real burner on the bases, but he's an excellent base runner. He reads pitchers well. He can go first to third, and he's one of the better base runners on the Blue Jays. Bouncing ball, this could be 2. Barroa to second for 1, and Pillar makes sure there's no return throw as he swipes at the feet of the shortstop, Cole Figueroa. Kevin Pillar does all the little things that coaches notice.
Well, as soon as this ball is hit as a base runner at first base, Kevin Pillar's got one thing in mind. That's to take out the shortstop so that they do not turn this inning-ending double play. And you can see he got a good piece of him right there, making sure there's no relay throw.
And you know what he did? He kept his spikes down. His spikes were on the ground. He just went in hard to the shortstop, and he couldn't make a throw.
It's good hard baseball. You're playing the game cleanly. You're not trying to hurt anybody, but making sure that you can still reach that second base bag. So it's a legal slide, but no way was that going to be turned.
You saw a glimpse in the dugout of Josh Donaldson asking Pillar what he saw from the pitcher. Joe, I don't know about you, but I've sensed a totally different mindset from this entire ball club this spring.
You do, and I think when you bring in some big boys like Russell Martin and Josh Donaldson, for me it all starts right there. I think last year this was Jose Bautista's team, and you know he's still a superstar on this team, but I think now you bring in a couple more. Edwin, when he can get back into action here, collectively this thing seems to be coming together, and what I think the number one thing is a nice mix of those veterans with the good, nice youth coming up. Another time, that's the way you put a good winning team together.
Well, I think we're hearing words we haven't heard a lot of in the past as far as this team. You're hearing compete, you're hearing win, go out and compete for the afternoon. Not so much about I'm getting my work in. And I think Russell Martin brings that attitude, Josh Donaldson as well. Bautista's always been competitive. But now when it's a universal thing, the youngsters start to buy into that program. Hey, this is a ball game. we're trying to get ready for the season. And when you play an AL East team like the Yankees, you want to set a tone for the upcoming season.
And it doesn't matter who's on the other side. This is a split squad game. The top of the lineup's pretty strong for the Yankees, but then tapers off down below. But as you said, that doesn't matter. It's about coming out and competing today, but you're preparing for April 6th and beyond. And I think they've got a lot of nice pieces to this puzzle together.
John Gibbons has to be pleased with the effort he has seen so far. Now there are runners at first and second. Tolley in his first at bat takes a walk. Goins reached on a fielder's choice. He's now at second base. Second baseman Devin Travis goes after the first pitch and bounces it to Rodriguez, and Alex Rodriguez tried to tag Ryan Goins, who slid around his glove. And Goins, credit him for busting it to third base. Oftentimes, base runners, especially in spring training, will jog into an out.
What do we say about playing hard? What do we say about competing? Ryan Goins right here. He's not just going to let Rodriguez tag him right here. He tries to avoid that tag, dives head first. I'll guarantee Alex Rodriguez thought he was going to give himself up right there, Ryan Goins. Not here. And there it is. There's that culture we're talking about that just seems to be a changed attitude.
Well, how does that change the complexion of this inning? Now you've got the bases loaded and Josh Donaldson hitting. Breaking ball, down and away. But there's another example of taking your opportunities in spring training and making the most of it. Ryan Goins is trying to win a spot on this roster.
He's kind of the forgotten name, I think, at second base this spring. Keep talking about Travis, Meisters Turris, the pickup of Ramon Santiago. Ryan Goins is saying, don't forget about me.
Bouncing ball. Rodriguez will go to the bag. This time he won't be tricked twice. The Blue Jays leave the bases loaded. We move to the sixth, looking for the first run of the game.
Magazine. It's the Blue Jays season preview edition. It has everything you need to get you ready for the upcoming season, and it is on newsstands now. Buck and Joe, you have your copies yet?
Not yet, Barry. Make sure we get that, okay? Sportsnet Magazine, and certainly you want to look to that and make sure you check it out, as the Sportsnet Magazine will keep you up to speed on everything that's about to happen in the 2015 season. The pitcher is Aaron Loup.
Loup has pitched in a couple of games this spring. Last year, 3.15 ERA for the Blue Jays in 71 games. One thing Aaron wants to cut down on is the walks. Got in a little trouble last year, but overall pretty good season. And that's a left-handed arm that John Gibbons is going to be relying heavily upon again this season.
Loup made his debut in July of 2012. And it was a good start. He worked 2 perfect innings against the Cleveland Indians. Carlos Beltran getting his third at bat. Pops this one up. Smoke over near the foul line. Little soft pop up for the out. Let's check it with Barry Davis.
Buck, Aaron Loup grew up in a little town outside New Orleans called Luling, Louisiana. He began playing baseball at a very young age. In fact, his dad built him a mound in the backyard. Now, I had a chance to visit with Loup in the off-season, and that mound is still there today. He says, like many players, he has his dad pretty much to thank for everything he's accomplished in baseball, from teaching him everything he knows from a young age, and you can see it all right now today with him on the mound.
Alex Rodriguez goes after the first pitch, and Ezekiel Carrera just into the ball game defensively makes the pitch. Rodriguez retired on one pitch by Loup. It's not uncommon, of course. This great game has ties between parents. A lot of fathers and sons have enjoyed many hours playing baseball, having a catch here and there. And Loup's no different. Alex Rodriguez 1 for 3 after that fly out to right field. Chris Young has singled and walked as the DH. What do you look for in relievers like Delabar and Loup here mid-spring?
Well, I think they're really just getting their feet wet. And for Aaron, it's really a different ball to watch because he's got that unorthodox delivery. He throws across his body, and he knows that he has to be consistent with that release.
Ground ball. Goins at short. Takes his time. In time. And a good inning of work for Aaron Loup. 3 up, 3 down in the 6th.
I got it.
I have to tell him.
No. Tell me what?
Dad is a woman.
I think your family is incredible. It's a privilege to be witness to you guys.
Are you saying that you're going to start dressing up like a lady all the time?
My whole life I've been dressing up like a man. This is me.
Show Me Transparent. Watch the full season only on Show Me. To start your free trial, visit showme.com or contact Rogers or Shaw.
Who cares the most about your comfort? Today we find out with Reliance Home Comfort taking on their biggest competitor, Sweet Little Grannies. Who's keeping us cool? This granny's opening a window. Classic move. But will it do the trick? Oh, 28's just too hot, Grandma. Reliance counters by opening a vent on a brand new air conditioner. You feel that cool air, Skip?
Of all the giveaway days during the season, nothing is more popular than bobblehead dates, and there are 4 of them this year. Beginning Sunday, April 19th against the Braves, it will be Jose Bautista, a bobblehead doll. First 20,000 fans will receive a bobblehead, and guys, if they ever made one of me, they should put a big bruise on his right leg from where Jose Bautista drilled me with an errant throw the other day.
I don't think it was an errant throw. I think he meant to hit you.
Well, he did come clean. He did come clean and say he meant to throw it at me. He meant to miss me. I don't even believe that, because how often does Bautista miss a target?
No, he's pretty good. Did he get an assist on that play?
No, but he did offer to buy me dinner, so I'm taking him up on that.
New pitcher into the ball game is the big left-hander Tyler Webb.
Tyler Webb pitched between 3 levels, A, AA, and AAA last season, 48 games, 3.8 ERA. He's pitched in 3 games this spring, giving up a few hits, a walk, and 4 strikeouts.
Scoreless ball game as we are set for the Blue Jays to bat here in the bottom of the 6th. Diane Viciedo back into action as he was out a few days dealing with a foot infection. He doubled in the 4th inning. Although it was a bloop double, it dropped in front of Carlos Beltran in right. Viciedo picked up late in the offseason by the Blue Jays, and he spent parts of 5 seasons with the White Sox. There's an off-speed pitch in there. A year ago, he hit just .221 against left-handed pitching. That's the surprising number. You think of a big, powerful right-handed bat, you expect to see big numbers against lefties. That's not the case last year. Different story for his career for Viciedo, a .291 career hitter against left-handers. And last season was the abnormal season in that regard. Breaking ball in the dirt.
He's a hitter with raw power, and that's the one thing John Gibbons likes about him. And played a little outfield. He could be in a little competition at first or third on the corners and fill in, but it's just his bat clearly that Gibbons is looking at, providing some thump in that offense.
Off the end of the bat, that's going to sneak through. A 2-hit afternoon for Viciedo. Leadoff single here in the 6th.
Well, for a big power hitter, too, you're not looking for this, but he's able to just get this ball. It's on the outside part of the plate, but he keeps it up the middle, bounces it up for a base hit to lead off the 6th inning.
The Blue Jays lost the season series to the Yankees last year. They were 8-11 against New York. But they did snap an extended losing streak at Yankee Stadium. Now 17 straight games to the Yankees at home, and fortunately that has come to an end. Switch hitter Justin Smoke, batting right-handed. Ball on the strike. Smoke would like to get things going. You know, the hitters, they talk a lot around the batting cage, and Jose Reyes was talking about it the other day. He said, I don't want good at bats. I want hits. You know, everybody says, hey, way to swing the bat. And I'm sure Smoke is in that category right now. Wants some hits. This could be 2. Ground ball to short, second for 1. Back to first. It is a double play. So that leadoff single is erased on the 6-4-3 double play off the bat of Justin Smoke.
Well, Smoke's been working on a lot of things in the batting cage with Brooke Jacoby, the Blue Jays hitting coach, and assistant Eric Owens. His fastball gets in on his hands. One thing they've been working on with Justin is he's drifted a little bit. He's one of those guys that gets out front a little bit. When you do that, you get very conscious and tied up on that inside pitch, and that's what happened to him right there. That swing gets a little long, your hands get away from you. Ball jams you on the inside.
Steve Tolleson batting in the spot occupied by Dalton Pompey. Pompey finishes up 0 for 2. Tolleson, this is just his 15th at bat of the spring. He has 3 hits in 14 previous at bats. Did a nice job coming off the bench for the Blue Jays, and he could do a lot of different things for you. He's played in the outfield, and that's where he's at since coming into this game.
Most of Steve's success offensively is against left-handers, and that's one thing he can do, but here's a guy that's out of options, so there's limited possibilities in that infield mix. He does play a little bit of outfield, but a decision will have to be made on him at the end of the spring.
That has always been a big part of how the Blue Jays put together their opening day roster. Do you think that's the case this year?
I think things are changing now. I think the sense of urgency is there from the top all the way down. The coaching staff, it's time to win now. There's jobs on the line. You're going to take the best people north.
There's another thing that's really got the clock ticking, is that's Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion. They're getting toward the end of their contracts. Same can be said for Dickey and Burley. 3-2. Ball 4. Donaldson takes a 2-out walk.
Well, they each have a year left on their contract, Edwin and Jose. Burley will be gone after this year. There's option years, so Jose and Edwin can be around for 2 more years. Option on Dickey as well. And, of course, you look towards the future, too. Now Donaldson is aboard in Martin, so you're continuing to build. We talked about all this good young pitching, the young Pompey, Devin Travis, Kevin Plottle, those names. So things do look good, but I do think there's a sense of urgency to win now. It's been too long in Toronto.
Sure has. Tolleson, he's kind of sneaky on the base. He had 3 steals in a limited number of at-bats last year, and certainly with 2 outs might be a time to gamble. Caleb Guindo hit a double in his first at-bat. He struck out in the 5th. He is 1 for 2. The psychology in thinking about running here, you got a lefty batter against a lefty pitcher. It's a scoreless game. You're in the 6th. If you steal a base, you got a runner in scoring position. There he goes. Throw is high and to the first base side of the bag, and Tollefson indeed moves into scoring position.
And it's a good gamble by Tollefson. He doesn't have the speed to just flat out steal a base in most cases. With the lefty on the mound, you'll see Tollefson, he's going to go first move as soon as that leg is lifted. He takes off. If the pitcher throws over, you're a dead duck, but that's the gamble you take with 2 outs. Now he's in scoring position for Guindo.
Just the 6th stolen base for the Blue Jays this spring. Breaking ball into dirt. No score here in the 6th. There are 2 outs. Tollefson, of course, will be breaking on contact. Base hit up the middle. He's being waved around third. Here's the throw from the center fielder. It's offline and late, and the Blue Jays take the 1-0 lead. A 2-out walk, a stolen base, and a base hit by Caleb Guindo as Tollefson comes in to score the first run of the afternoon.
Well, those are the things that Steve Tollefson brings to this team. He just does a lot of little things. That stolen base proves to be the key play right here. Caleb Guindo, this red-hot left-handed bat. We've talked about him all day. Stays on this baseball very well. Again, the Yankees playing him to shift over. Luis Rivera is waving Tollefson home all the way. Steve gets a great jump on that ball. And with 2 outs, you're taking that gamble every time, and throws up the third baseline. Tollefson scores easily.
Ezekiel Carrera getting his first at bat of the afternoon. Guindo is out of the game. Another 2-hit game for him. Anthony Alford has taken over as the pinch runner at second. 0-2. Guindo with 2 more hits this afternoon has taken over the team lead. He's got 9 hits so far this spring. There goes the runner uncontested to third, and he steals it easily. One and 2. Little flare to left field. Left fielder comes in. He gets there, makes the catch. The inning is over. But Caleb Guindo continues his red-hot spring. He drives into first run of the game. 1-0 Jays.
Fans, catch the 2015 ICC Cricket World Cup live and in HD. Contact your local service provider or visit getcricket.ca. Guys, have not seen any crickets around the ballpark, but yesterday I did spot a possum running around outside the Blue Jays clubhouse, something I can honestly say I will never see at Rogers Center.
Barry, you are remarkable in your ability to find little things going on around the ballpark. Good job. A possum. And Loop in his second inning of work. Loop the time to side an order in the 6th. Second baseman Jose Barella. Barella was robbed of an extra base hit in his first time up back in the second inning. Dalton Pompey made a terrific defensive play in center. Diving over in the alley in right center and making the catch. Well, there's that big sweeping breaking ball that's in there for a strike.
It's a big pitch for Aaron Luke, and especially to the right-hand hitter. He has to continue to show it to them, but that's the one pitch he would say that he struggled with a bit last year, and again, it's going back to that crossfire delivery.
Luke has really incorporated a changeup that's going to serve him well. Last year, you can see lefties, they didn't fare well at all, but now that changeup's going to help him against a right-handed hitter. There it is, right on cue. Big strikeout to start the 7th.
It's another weapon against right-handers, and that crossfire delivery is tough on lefties. It's tough for lefties to pick up the baseball, but if he can get the fastball in on the righties and then be able to throw this changeup down and away, that's just an outstanding combination.
It is such an effective pitch because he throws hard, and he can get that fastball inside of the right-handed hitters. Well, his day is done. 4 up, 4 down with a strikeout. Draybeck will come out of the bullpen and work with 1 out here in the 7th. Kyle Draybeck into the ball game. He takes over with 1 out here in the 7th inning. And Joe, you mentioned players out of options. Here's another one for the Blue Jays.
Well, Kyle really gets to a point when you're out of options like this. He's pitching for more than just one team. You talked about it earlier. If he can have a good performance this spring, he forces the Blue Jays' hand to keep him. If they don't, he's exposed to the waiver wire, and another team could pick him up.
This is his 4th appearance of the spring. Francisco Arcia into the ball game. Travis knocks it down, stays with it, and Draybeck picks up an out on 1 pitch. Draybeck is now in his 6th season with the Blue Jays. He was originally drafted by the Phillies in 2006, and he was, of course, part of that big trade that sent Roy Halladay to Philadelphia. The Blue Jays got Michael Taylor, Travis d'Ormeaux, and Kyle Draybeck in exchange for Roy Halladay December 16, 2009. It was a good fastball for a strike. Pitchers getting their running in the outfield, something you don't see a lot of in this day and age with all the extra fields around. They used to be a fixture in spring training games years ago.
And I often wondered, why can't they run on the outside of the fence?
Alex Rodriguez trying to knock off the rust of missing the entire season a year ago. I got a chance to visit with Alex before the game today, and obviously he has been through a lot and served his time, served his suspension, and said he's had several meetings with the new commissioner, Rob Manfred. And he says, I'm following his lead. And by his own admission, Alex says Manfred has been very helpful. And obviously, what he said to me was very interesting. He says, I love baseball. It's been my entire life, and I don't want to be like those other guys that have had to deal with the steroids. He says, I don't want to be out of baseball. I don't want to be ostracized. He says, I want to give something back to the game later on. And it was kind of interesting to hear him talk about that. There's a little pop-up behind the bag at second. Goins waits on it. Draybeck retires at 2. He's faced here in the 7th. We'll go to the bottom of the 7th. Blue Jays lead it 1-0.
Junior Jay's Saturday's return in 2015 brought to you by Boston Pizza. Special price tickets in the 200 and 500 level outfield seats. And after the game, always fun. Kids 14 and under can run the bases just like the pros. Call 416-341-1234 or BlueJays.com. Buck.
Thank you, Barry. New pitcher into the ball game for the Yankees is Cesar Vargas, a right-handed pitcher. Yankees having a split squad game, so they've dug down into their minor league system for some innings here.
Vargas pitching in his second game this spring, split time last year between a couple of teams at the Class A level. Last season, pitching 44 games, 2.58 ERA in A ball.
Cesar Vargas is from Buena Park, California. He's 23 years old. Brian Goins has had a good day. He singled in his first at bat, reached on the fielder's choice, and then avoided a tag, sliding in with 2 outs at third base to keep the inning alive. That would load the bases for Josh Donaldson. Unfortunately, Donaldson was retired on the fielder's choice. Goins came into this game batting .313 for the spring. There's 16 at bats. He came in 5 for 16 so far. He's got 1 for 2 this afternoon. Takes a pitch down and in.
Ryan told me that he's almost to a point in his career now, 26 years old. He wanted to take his own career into his own hands, and he's really trying to not to disrespect any hitting coaches that he had or had in the past, but he's really taking things on himself now. Felt that he had success hitting in the minors, and that sometimes kids, you get up to the big leagues and you're trying to tweak things and try to adjust, which you do have to do to have that success, but he's had a good spring.
Full count. Bouncing ball to short. Big hop. Gobbled up and plenty of time. Goins is retired. He's 1 for 3. A lot of new faces into this ball game here late in the game. That is Cito Culver, who has made some highlight plays for the Yankees at shortstop this spring. The heir apparent to the position for the Yankees appears to be Didi Gregorius, taking over for Derek Jeter at shortstop. Gregorius is playing in the other game for the Yankees at home in Tampa against the Tigers. Gregorius finishes up 1 for 2 this afternoon. Picked up an RBI, his 3rd of the spring. The Yankees playing the Detroit Tigers. Yankees are ahead 3-1 in that ball game. Detroit has managed just 2 hits. Josh Tolley walked his only at bat. That came in the 5th inning after he took over for Russell Martin. Martin started, hit in the leadoff spot, went 1 for 2 with a double. For the Yankees, in their game against the Tigers, Michael Pineda went 3 innings, walked 1, struck out 4, didn't allow a hit. Dylan Betances, the big right-hander who had such a terrific season a year ago for Joe Girardi, pitches an inning. He is charged with 1 run on 2 hits. He didn't strike out a batter. Andrew Miller worked an inning and had 2 strikeouts this afternoon. Yankees are going to have a good bullpen.
That's pretty good back end right there, and still question as to who's going to set up and who's going to close. Naturally, Betances would move into that slot.
Betances had a terrific season a year ago, his first full season. Had the most strikeouts in franchise history for a relief pitcher, which is saying a lot when you consider Mariano Rivera was there his entire career. One and two, 1 out. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. It's a 1-0 ball game. Blue Jays scoring a run in the 6th. In the dirt, down and away. Boy, Trent. Hooked foul out of play. A little more goodwill going on for Alex Rodriguez as he's taking time to sign autographs. And we talk about his desire to get back into the good graces of baseball fans. Tolley strikes out, 2 down.
Good fastball from Vargas right here, up in the zone. Josh swinging just under it. He feels that see that dismay after he finished that swing, looking to the sky.
Second baseman Devin Travis batting for the 4th time. Looks at a hook for a strike. Good curveball. Travis has struck out, lined out, and hit into a fielder's choice. Sharply hit through the left side into left field. A 2-out single for Travis.
Buck, very interesting, Devin Travis. I still think he's a guy who just played in Double-A last year. Do you think it's inconceivable, but somebody like this could have a good final couple of weeks and take this job at second base?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. Everybody knows Meiser Asturias is signed. He's got a nice contract, part of a 3-year deal he signed with the Blue Jays. But I think you made the point, hey, there are high stakes in the 2015 season. Blue Jays, you would think, want to put the best team on the field, and whether or not they think Travis can handle, I guess, the defensive part of it first and foremost. And then the inevitable struggles that will come with a rookie hitter. Munenori Kawasaki takes it down and in. It's 2-0. Kawasaki's batting for the first time. He took over defensively for Josh Donaldson, who went 1 for 3 this afternoon.
Ramon Santiago is also signed from the Tigers at second base, utility infield position. He can play a little second, third, and short.
The question becomes, how do you put the puzzle together? If Dalton Pompey wins the starting role in center field, can you go with another rookie at second base? That's the question that John Gibbons has to answer.
And again, if you think of a veteran, you're looking at Astros and you're looking at Santiago, but these aren't guys really that have had a lot of success as everyday players. Santiago's a bench guy.
Astros basically missed all of last season. He played in just 11 games, and he's 34 years old. So, yeah, there are a lot of things to resolve before the end of spring training. Devin Travis broke towards second, but looked like he was just bluffing. He's not a real base stealing threat.
Sometimes a guy like that doesn't steal a ton of bases will try to cheat and try to get that good jump, and looked like he may have been thinking about it right there. May not have been happy with the jump that he got. Looked pretty good, though.
Just outside the bag at first base. Travis had 14 steals in his second professional season. That was in his time in the Midwest League, West Michigan. In 77 games, he was 14 for 17. And then at Lakeland, when he was promoted to the Florida State League, he was 8 for 9. There he goes. He got a good jump. He timed it perfectly. And Tim Leeper, the first base coach, is really encouraging everybody to think aggressively. Here's now the time to find out what you can do as a base runner down here in spring training.
And during the season, Tim will study an awful lot of film on all of the pitchers, and all the players will have a good idea going into a ball game. Little tips.
3-2, and Kawasaki takes ball 4. 2 aboard now for Viciedo. Viciedo's had a 2-hit afternoon. He's 2 for 3, and a bloop double and a single. His single came in his last at bat.
You wonder maybe if Michael Saunders is not going to be ready opening day, do you see John Gibbons possibly throwing Viciedo out in left field a little bit just to have that veteran bat? If not, you could conceivably have a 7-8-9 of Pompey, Travis, and Pilar. It's pretty tough when you're going to try to win a championship.
It just depends on how much offense you want and how much defense. I have no problem with Pompey and Pilar in center and left, some combination of that. I think either one of them could handle center field. I think John Gibbons feels the same way.
Exactly.
2 outs. Viciedo fouls it. I think Ryan Goins was hurt somewhat by an overall team slump in April last year. Nobody was hitting. You remember, Encarnacion didn't hit a home run until May. And the team got out to a poor start offensively. He was playing great defense, and his average kind of stuck out as he was hitting under 200, but nobody else on the club was hitting. Might have been a different story if the ball club was scoring a lot of runs and Goins would have been overlooked with his bat.
It's a very good point, because number one, hitting is contagious, but number two, if your big boys are doing it and you're scoring more runs, you can afford to have that guy at the bottom of the order playing tremendous defense, and that's what Goins brings to the table.
I don't think there's a pitcher on the team that wouldn't applaud Ryan Goins playing second base. 1-2, 2 outs. We're in the 7th. Sharply hit bouncing ball. Flip to second. The inning is over. Blue Jays lead a pair, but we'll head to the 8th. The Jays lead at 1-0.
Fans get suited up for the 2015 season at jaysshop.ca. Has the largest online selection of authentic Blue Jays caps, t-shirts, jerseys, and more. Visit jaysshop.ca or call 1-877-JAYS-SHOP. And I've already seen a number of Donaldson and Martin jerseys here in Dunedin. Guys, those are going to be big sellers this season.
They sure will be, as they're both in their first season with the Blue Jays. And, of course, Russell Martin's got to be looking ahead to the end of spring training when he'll go home and play against the Cincinnati Reds in Montreal. 2 games at the end of spring. That'll be interesting, as the Blue Jays will, for a second consecutive season, close out their spring training playing in Montreal. And my understanding is that they've already sold 75,000 tickets for the 2 games at the Big O. This is Cito Culver, the shortstop, getting his first at bat. Kyle Drabek got the final 2 outs of the 7th. He starts the 8th. Drabek is throwing a few more cutters now, and it's a pretty good pitch, but I think the biggest thing that has hurt him throughout his time with the Blue Jays has been his lack of fastball command. And here he misses with the fastball.
All of the other pitches work off the fastball. You have to command the fastball first and foremost. A lot of catchers in calling the game, starting out in that first inning, you want to establish fastball command. If you can get that release point correct, now you've got a chance to do it with your secondary pitches.
That fastball was in a good spot. That runs the count to 3-2. Drabek is now 27 years old. And he was a first-round pick, 18th pick overall in 2006 by the Phillies. Waved at. Culver strikes out 1 out. Let's check in with Barry Davis.
We've just seen Kyle Drabek is a power arm who throws from the right side. However, if you ever get a chance to see Drabek during batting practice shagging flies, you will notice he becomes a converted left-hander. I asked him what the deal is with shagging left-handed. He said it's 2 reasons. Number 1, he wants to protect that right arm, which is very important to him for pitching. And number 2, it's just plain fun, and he likes to show off during BP. Guys?
Interesting aspect of Drabek. He's athletic. There's a lot of things he can do. But I think he just has a little fun out there in the outfield shagging during BP, and that's a boring time for pitchers. Boy, when they know they're not pitching, not working for a few days.
A lot of standing around. He might as well try to put on the other glove and have some fun shagging him down and get a little workout in.
There's a grounder to the right side. Goins got a bad hop. Looked like he had a shot at it, and then it hit the lip of the grass and popped over his glove. Goins moved from short to second base as Jonathan Diaz has come in to play short.
Come on.
Michael O'Neill is batting now. You mentioned the Yankees playing 2 games today. They got a split squad game. There goes the base runner. Tolley's throw not in time. Great jump at first base and a stolen base.
Well, as a catcher, Josh Tolley did all he could do, but real good jump at first base. That's just a pitcher not doing a good job holding that runner tight. You have to pay attention. Get a jump like that as a catcher. There's not much you can do to make up for that lost time.
The batter is Ben Gamble. He's in left field. The runner at second base with the stolen base is Michael O'Neill. Yankees have dug down deep into the minor league system to fill out 2 teams today. Check swing, he went around. Drabek, mentioned he retired 2 batters in the 7th. Struck out the first batter here in the 8th, and then a ground ball base hit and a stolen base has the tying run in scoring position. Breaking ball, and Tolley puts the tag on Gamble as he strikes out. Second strikeout of the inning.
Good pitch down in the zone by Drabek. Tolley gets down there. Good off speed. You see that hard downward movement. Looks like it's a fastball entering the hitting zone, but at the last second it takes a dive right into the ground.
This is Taylor Douglas, who has come into the ball game. Number 85. Of course, the Yankees have few numbers to pick from when you think about all the numbers that have been retired. They're going to add to that list this summer. They're going to retire 3 uniform numbers this summer. Andy Pettit's number 46, Jorge Posada's number 20, and Bernie Williams is number 51. So they're going to add 3 more numbers to the list of retired numbers in Yankee franchise history. They've retired so many numbers, they retired 8 twice. Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra both wore number 8, and they have retired that number twice. Oh, 1-2, 2 outs. Kyle Drabek pitching with a runner in scoring position at second. That ball gets away from Tolley. The check swing. No swing, says the umpire down at third. So now the tying run just 90 feet away. That breaking ball got away from Josh Tolley.
Tolley being tested by Kyle Drabek this inning. A lot of balls in the dirt. He was able to corral that strike 3, but that one goes off his wrist. If you don't square it up as a catcher in the middle of your body, sometimes it'll go off that extra little, whether it's your glove or wrist, something sticking out, and it deflected, went to the on-deck circle.
Ground ball. Goins at second, stays down on it, and the inning is over. Drabek, an inning and a third of scoreless relief. A couple of strikeouts for Kyle. Norris goes 3 1/3, and by his own admission after the outing, he said he wasn't very sharp, but he looked good, Joe.
Well, it looked good, very good at times, elevating that fastball on A-Rod. This is the curveball to Brett Gardner, looking very defensive with that swing, but he's got that stuff. He just felt he was a little inconsistent, especially with the breaking stuff today. When he works it, he's very good, but when not, he has to be a little sharper.
This is the starting rotation and what they have done so far this spring. R.A. Dickey will pitch tomorrow against the Canadian junior national team. Dickey's gone 6 innings. Burley has done his normal thing. Drew Hutchison will pitch next on Tuesday night against the Yankees over in Tampa. And Daniel Norris had another impressive outing here this afternoon, and we saw the quality of his pitches from time to time. But in the interview we had with Norris after he came out of the game, he said he didn't feel very good at all, but he didn't look that way when you watched him pitch.
Well, he's got such good stuff that he can get away with it, and that's what happens when you've got a pretty high-powered fastball, 93, 94, and he's got the curveball, slider, and changeup, all 4.
This is Matt Haig, who is taking over at first base for Justin Smoke. Diego Moreno into the ball game as the Yankees continue to run out some of their minor leaguers to finish out this game.
Really, it's probably going to come down to a decision of what the Blue Jays want to do with the youngster Norris. Is he better served being in AAA as a starter and using him as insurance if needed? Do you move the veteran Estrada into the rotation to join Sanchez? There's a lot of ways they can do this. It's going to be very interesting as the spring plays out.
Yeah, that's easy for you and I to say, but that man in that dugout, John Gibbons, is going, wait a minute. I don't want to hear about anybody's future. I want to take some guys that are going to give me some outs. And he's got a very, very impressive core of young starters to pick from. And, of course, Drew Hutchison, boy, he has taken another step in his development. He pitched well last year, especially at the end of the season. And then the Blue Jays in strikeouts for 9 innings for the starters. And then you look at Sanchez, who continues to impress. And yesterday we saw him break out that slider for the first time. And yeah, development is important, but there comes a time when you have to make a decision as an organization. Let's let these young guys develop in the big leagues. Late call, and Matt Haig is called out. High breaking ball, got it.
It's not a very good pitch by the pitcher. You don't want to leave this ball up in the zone, but again, this is a pitch that Haig is looking at. It looks elevated in the zone. You lay off it, and then it just comes down and up. That's a hanger. That's not a very good pitch at all, but sometimes it is effective.
Steve Tolleson has scored the only run of the ball game. He walked with 2 outs and nobody on in the 6th, stole second base, and then scored on a base hit by Caleb Gindel.
Right.
Off speed pitch in there for a strike. It's 1-1 to Tolleson.
And I think before the back end of this rotation gets sorted out, Buck, you have to assume and remember that the guys at the front need to do their thing. Both Burley and Dickey need to repeat their 2014 performances.
Both pitchers giving the Blue Jays 200 innings. And what that does is, at least last year, it guaranteed you basically a good night for the bullpen.
That's right, a well-rested night. You hope Drew Hutchison can build off that last season, just like you said, after the surgery. Tommy John surgery, a solid year last year. I know he wants to be better, but he could push 200 innings if he can stay healthy as well.
Well, I think that's something on his mind. He wants to be another one of those guys that you can count on to pitch deep into a ball game.
You know, before the Stroman injury, too, you could think if Daniel Norris has a good spring, he could slot into that 5th spot. You've got Estrada, the veteran, and Sanchez, the power arm, from the right-handed side to complement Cecil and Luke from the left side. And now you've got your bullpen forming.
Full count to Tolleson, 1 out. We're in the 8th inning. Blue Jays have wrapped out 9 hits, but that has led to just 1 run, and there's ball 4. Collison walks for a second time this afternoon. Interesting day for the Blue Jays, as they have now taken 3 walks. They have struck out 8 times. And they've had 9 hits in the game, but mustered just 1 run. Anthony Alford takes strike 1. He came into the ballgame as a pinch runner for Caleb Gindel in the 6th inning. The ball gets away from the first baseman, but not far enough for Collison to advance. Blue Jays will have their own split squad games tomorrow, as they will play the Canadian junior national team here tomorrow and then play Atlanta over in Orlando. They'll have an off day on Monday, and this time of the spring, that's a welcome break from the rigors of spring training, that's for sure. Blue Jays will have another off day on the 23rd, also a Monday. And then, just before they play in Montreal, they'll have an off day on Thursday, April 2nd. They'll fly to Montreal that day and get set to take on the Reds in a 2-game series Friday night and Saturday afternoon in Montreal. Check swing into the screen above the Blue Jays dugout. Alford, a terrific 2-sport athlete. He was a quarterback at Southern Mississippi, transferred to Ole Miss, and played on the team as a safety, but then opted to become a 1-sport player and concentrate on baseball. There you go. I like the dimension of multi-sport athletes. It just gives you a totally different discipline of skill sets.
A lot of big league players, you go around and ask them, they all play different sports in high school as well. They're all multi-sport athletes, and talk about today, we watch Esmail Rogers come off the mound and make a great play. Hey, he's a great athlete, played other sports. He was an infielder previously. Aaron Sanchez made a nice play off the mound earlier.
Alfred's just 20 years old. Collison was leaning, and he's picked off. Snap throw to first base gets him as he was thinking about stealing second.
Well, you're trying to get a good jump each time, but he just kept coming over, and that time was just a little too quick for Collison. You see the flinch towards second base, and that's what a runner's trying to do, is get that good jump, cheat a little bit, good quick move, throw over.
Diego Moreno misses with that high fastball. It's a full count to Alford. Anthony came into the game as a pinch runner, and we mentioned he stole third base uncontested. Strike 3 call. Alford thought it was upstairs. The little calls him out. The inning's over. We'll go to the 9th. It's a 1-0 game here in Dunedin. you by Scott's Weed Be Gone. This spring, knock weeds out of your park with Scott's Weed Be Gone. Kills weeds, not lawn.
Back in the second inning, Dalton Pompey got a tremendous jump on this ball into the right center gap off the bat of Jose Perella. Two things really important here. The right-handed hitting Perella. Pompey knows that ball is going to slice away from him. He also knew that the wind was blowing from left to right today. He got on his horse, good first step, and fully extended. Makes a tremendous catch to rob Perella of extra bases.
Chad Jenkins will come in to try to close this game out. It is a 1-0 Blue Jays lead. Daniel Norris started, went 3 1/3. Infante, Delabar, Luke Drabeck, and now Jenkins.
Jenkins pitched in 21 games for the Blue Jays last season, a ground ball specialist. Did a nice job while he was up. He was back and forth several times. Options left in his contract.
Oh, look out. And he hits the first batter. Not what you want to do in a 1-0 game. Pulled that fastball inside, and Jalelo is going to take first base. So the tying run is on, and we're going to have a pinch runner as the high numbers continue to trot out of that Yankee dugout.
Way to take one for the team. That way, baby.
Trying to get you the name of that base runner at first base. Tyler Wade is the pinch runner. Kyle Higashioka is batting. There's a strike from Chad Jenkins. Jenkins, as Joe mentioned, is a ground ball pitcher. He throws a lot of good sinking fastballs, and that's what he needs right here with the runner on to start the inning.
With that weapon, you're always one pitch away from getting 2 outs, and Chad's going to be looking to do that right here with the right-handed hitter. Look for that two-seam fastball, middle in.
Down and away, ball on the strike.
Totally set up in right there. It's exactly what he's trying to do. You see Jenkins just pulled that a little bit. Chad's been scuffling a little bit here early in spring. He gave up a big 3-run homer to Chris Davis in Sarasota last week. Just hasn't quite fine-tuned that delivery just yet.
Off the glove of Tolley. That's going to move the tying run into scoring position with nobody out. That ball ran up and in and got away from Tolley. Hits off his glove and goes back to the screen.
That's a pitch Tolley would love to have back, especially in this situation. He just missed this ball. Talked about the good movement Jenkins gets on his pitch. Josh Tolley doesn't catch Jenkins too much. Mostly catching R.A. Dickey throughout the season last year. And just got off the end of his glove.
Big swing and a miss. It's now 2-2.
Square him up. Come on.
The Yankees have been shut out on just 5 hits. Chopper foul outside of third.
Up too big, Iggy. Come on now.
Jenkins will probably try to continue to pound that sinker down and in on the right-handed hitter, try to get him to pull a ball to the left side so that he cannot advance that runner to third.
That's a fair ball. In time, good throw by Kawasaki. The runner has to hold at second. First out of the inning.
Mission accomplished for Jenkins and catcher Josh Tolley right there. He executed the pitch the way he wanted. Kept that runner at second base with 1 out in this 1-run game.
This is Ali Castillo batting for the first time. Many of these players here this afternoon have been added. They're not on the 40-man roster, nor are they spring training invitees.
We might get a 3-digit number on a jersey here pretty soon.
They're up to 99. Look at the media notes for the Yankees. Aaron Judge is number 99, and he's a much talked about prospect over there in Yankee camp. Called for the swing. Castillo now behind 0-2. Chad Jenkins trying to close things out. He hit the first batter on the first pitch he threw this inning. And the ball got away from Josh Tolley to allow the base runner to move into scoring position.
See that runner, Tyler Wade, at second base. He's doing what he can to try to time Jenkins and try to steal third here. It's tough to do with 2 strikes on the hitter, but good job by Jenkins. Doesn't look right or feel right, step off and reset.
Ball in the dirt, and the runner at second thought about moving up. Tyler Wade read the ball perfectly as the ball was in the dirt. The hitter, Castillo, goes around, strikes out.
Outstanding job again here by Tolley, keeping this ball in front of him. He gets down to both knees, catches it off the left shoulder, but he's able to keep it close enough to him. You can see that runner on second wanting to go. Not sure I would have said he went on that, but Tolley gets the call. And Chad Jenkins in a far better situation with 2 outs now.
Francisco Arcia came out as a pinch hitter. It's 0 for 1. 2 outs. Yankees trying to stay alive here in the top of the 9th. Joe Girardi getting into midseason form, letting the umpire hear about that last call. And Girardi's not happy with that call. He's shaking his head over in front of the Yankees dugout.
I think these guys aren't competitive.
Yeah. No matter what month it is. Especially Girardi being a catcher. 0-1, 2 outs. Foul tip. Now it's 0-2. Yankees down to their final strike. Yankees are 7-4 so far this spring. The Blue Jays 5-7. Another good crowd on hand here at Florida Auto Exchange Stadium. Jenkins is set. Ground ball. Jonathan Diaz at short, bobbles it in. All hands are safe. Here's the throw to the plate, and that's going to end the ball game. Diaz always alert, bobbled the ball, looked up and saw the base runner, Tyler Wade, trying to score from second base on the ground ball, and the Blue Jays will win it. Jonathan Diaz with a heads-up play. Once he bobbled it, knew he had no play at first base, looks up, and he has a shot at the runner trying to score.
Jonathan Diaz got away with one there. The sure-handed Diaz. We have not seen him do that very often, but that runner, Tyler Wade, looking to score any way he could, comes flying around third base. Diaz heads up, identifies that, throws a strike to Josh Tolley to end this ball game.
Blue Jays win it 1-0. They get 9 hits today. The Mets wake up a bit. Daniel Norris started, went 3 1/3. Gave up 3 hits and no runs, and Caleb Gendel, another good day for Gendel. 2 hits, including his 6th double of the spring. Alex Rodriguez back at third base, had a single in 3 at-bats. Blue Jays win it 1-0 now. We'll throw it down to Barry Davis. Thanks for watching.
And don't forget to join us next Sunday, 12:30. Note the start time. The Blue Jays take on the Tampa Bay Rays right here in Dunedin. That'll do it for us here in Dunedin. I want to thank Buck Martinez and Joe Siddle, and I'm Barry Davis. Now let's send it over to women's semifinal basketball. Saskatchewan versus Windsor. Here's Arash Madani.